The March on Washington movement, which was organized by A. Philip Randolph, who had been the founder of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, was a kind of central rallying cry, rallying point for African Americans in New York during the war years.
In 1940, there were 10 war plants in New York City and New York State that employed tens of thousands of workers. Only 140 of them were black.
A. Philip Randolph got the idea that if black people pay taxes, then they should be entitled to working in publicly funded defense industries.
African Americans should have access to these good defense jobs in the defense industry, but also should have full rights in the military. Part of the struggle in these years for African American men was winning the right to fight, the right to participate in combat. And so this prompted all kinds of mobilization and protest. Most famously, A. Philip Randolph organized the March on Washington movement. He threatened to bring 100,000 black workers to Washington, D.C. on July 1st, 1941.
Flyers went up all over the United States. Anywhere that you had a chapter of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, you had a chapter of the March on Washington movement. One thing that scared the Roosevelt administration is what's going to happen in the United States if you take 100,000 black people, bring them into a segregated city for a protest against racism. Will you have a riot?
So to forestall the demonstration, Roosevelt was pressured into making a concession. He issued an executive order barring racial discrimination by defense contractors and setting up a committee known as the Fair Employment Practices Committee to enforce this executive order.
In response, A. Philip Randolph decided to call off the march. Some people wanted to keep it going, but A. Philip Randolph, because of his experience as a labor organizer, knew that you couldn't always get everything you wanted in these demands, so he settled for getting jobs in the defense industry.
It was in the 1940s that we get the groundwork for what would then emerge again as the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Justice. That once again, it was about economic issues as well as civil rights issues. They were paired together, and we first see this architecture of that movement, of that march, happening in the 1940s during the war years in New York.